means one thing. It means we get to check and see how many cups of coffee and see what's going on the Pacific frontier. It's time to bring in our buddy Niko. Niko Moreno hanging out with us on a Thursday. Niko, it is John, it is Nick, and it is you, my friend.
What's going on, SDH family? Happy to be here once again. I see you guys are already getting into some good discussions. So you know what? We have preseason. We have the Sounders' first preseason game. Yeah. We got a couple of new entries into the league. So I'm ready to go, baby.
All right, Nick, I'll let you lead off. What's on your mind first with Niko this morning?
We've been discussing, Niko, the need to be very intentional when making demands of owners in the league, because we've been talking about Open Cup and Leagues Cup and how some teams are, how the league was like, well, we're sending our second team players for Open Cup. And my demand is to be intentional and demand from league owners, improve, to expand the roster and make a true, raise the salary floor, not the cap, the floor, to try to make these teams spend more money to improve the product on the field, right? And with some of the teams out there that have spent a wall of money poorly, some who have spent it wisely. And, what are your thoughts when it comes to this, and how do we get the teams that don't have ambition to, shove them into the pit, for lack of a better term, or, kind of stimulate them to get them to start investing more?
Yeah, it's a tough conversation. I mean, the cliche would tell you that relegation and promotion would be the answer. After, spending quite some time talking to GMs and business owners, I know that that's not so much of a possibility, and that the league has grown in various ways, including what they've done with MLS Next Pro and all of the youth development tournaments that they currently have within the league. I think that you will see a raise of that base salary in order to shorten the amount of money that you see between certain players, although you see that all across sports and all across soccer in general. There's obviously already a CBA established. There's already something in the works that's gonna have small increments throughout the seasons, but with Messi coming in, with all of the eyes that are currently in MLS, with the amount of tournaments and the clear intent to not get rid of Leagues Cup and all of these other promotional tournaments that make MLS attractive globally, and U.S. Soccer's strong and great decision to not allow these teams to play their youth and basically their farming system teams within these tournaments. I think that you're right. There should be an increase of players, of rosters, and the base salary will come up. I do think, and I do know that at some point after is all said and done, we're going to see that increase. And I think it is important. It's a conversation to have, simply because if we like to think that we're, as a league in MLS, growing as quickly as we have, then there has to be growth within those economical systems, within that salary and within that roster implementation rules.
So then, I mean, and this was the point that some of us were making, and literally this has taken over the show this morning. If Major League Soccer as an entity had just basically kept their mouth shut, not said a word, or said, the Open Cup's announced and everything, and Major League Soccer had just said, we're looking forward to participating in the Open Cup this year, and then just done it as normal, where you have Seattle playing Northern Colorado Hailstorm, but you have you've got Paul Rothrock starting all of a sudden. And you're going, well, why is that happening? And, of course, you know why it's happening, because of schedule compression and other things. If MLS had just said, we're looking forward to participating in Open Cup, and then all of a sudden on game day, you've got 7 starters from Tacoma Defiance out there with, maybe Reed Baker-Whiting, Josh Atencio, Obed Vargas, whomever, and you've got your backup keeper. Wouldn't that, would not all of this firestorm not be talked about? Literally, it would take away a lot of stuff that we're talking about these days if Major League Soccer had just said, you know what, we're looking forward to participating in Open Cup this year, and let the rosters be what they are.
Honestly, the thing that blows my mind is that's exactly what's been happening. That's exactly what it has been going on. So that's why I don't understand the take of MLS to say, hey, we're going to do something that we've been doing either way. I think they just wanted a free pass to say we're not going to start absolutely nobody from the starting team. And they've been doing that. How many times did we see LAFC with a whole bunch of young starting players that, they're looking up, academy players? Seattle has been consistently criticized by their fans because, in their words, they're not serious about the U.S. Open Cup. And at those times, there is a lot of Tacoma Defiance players that go in, and Seattle hasn't been even remotely close to getting anywhere to a championship in a very long time because of those same factors. And so that's kind of what blows my mind, that those situations that you're mentioning they were already happening. You were already playing with mainly Tacoma Defiance teams, players. And that's exactly why I don't understand the position, the request, the application they try to put in, because it's what's been happening. So to both of you guys' points, you just got to continue to move on the same way you've been doing it. And there are teams that are going to see the need to start a full starting team. And as you get closer to that trophy, then you see teams being completely serious. You saw it with Cincinnati. You saw it with Houston. You saw it with the LA Galaxy at one point. That's all they had to hang their hat on. It's just about demand. So all in all, we're having a conversation that should have never been brought up. And I think that was the whole point of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, folks want to know what cup of coffee you're on, by the way.
Well, that's number two. Number 2 today. Definitely got up early today, trying to chase down a couple of things that have not come to fruition. But we're here, ready to go.
All right, Nick, go for it.
Yeah, so let's talk about what's coming up for this season, preseason. You got Leagues Cup. Everyone is back, right? We're ready for full gear. Mm-hmm. Are you still excited as you were when we spoke last week? Is the excitement level maintained? Are you still fired up?
Fired up about the Sounders?
Oh,
absolutely. Yes, I am. I am very excited still about at least watching that first game. Okay. Now, I want to say that my excitement is not to be confused by me thinking that this team is absolutely going to take the league by storm or anything. I just look at the West, as we have been talking about, and I look at the core group here in Seattle, and I think that if we compare what they did last season and we take some of the additions that they brought in and the depth that they have today, there is a lot to like there. And because of the troubles that a lot of top teams in the West have, it's not ludicrous to say that Seattle's a top team now. This Sounders team is having an interesting preseason, right? They just beat Baka Topola, a Serbian team, in their preseason game. As is usual per Brian Smetzer, he kind of had a couple of mixed teams in which the first 60 minutes you saw what's probably their starting backup, their back line in Alex Roldan, Nathan, and that's because Yamar Gomez-Andrade is still not with the team. We'll talk about that a little later. Cody Baker played, so no Nuhu, obviously, because he was with the national team. You had Joao Paulo, and that was an interesting first 60 minutes. I believe the team tied 1-1 at the end. You saw some of those movements and passing and possession that they want to display. In the second part of that preseason game, you saw Jordan Morris come in, Willie Chu, which probably was going to be your starting attacking side as of right now, with Albert Rusnak and a couple of other players. And that showed some interesting stuff, particularly Leo Chu. Leo Chu is a player that is probably under a lot of pressure because of everything that happened, because he knows that Pedro de la Vega is coming possibly and very likely for his position. So he looked great. He was just doing the thing. I mean, both sides of the ball, defensively, offensively. Was the defending from the opposition great? Not so much. He got he got away with a lot. He got behind the right back quite easily, but he was great. Had 2 assists. He looked dangerous. So that's something to watch throughout these preseason games, is how Leo Chu will take on this season, because he has a chip on his shoulder. He wants to show that he's worth the money, that he is worth the time, the starting position, and that he's not going to lay down for no wonder kid. So okay. That's going to be interesting to watch. Raul Ruiz himself, he looked good too, very involved. Actually, the first goal for his team comes off a shot that he hits from a corner kick. There's a deflection, and Eden ended up getting put in the back of the net. But he looks good. He looks very serious. So with all that said, I think that all of the battles in those positional groups are really picking up the intensity of this group. And there's a lot to like there. And again, there are players that are still not there that are going to come in. I don't think Guillermo Gomez Andrade is going to make it to Spain, to be quite honest. As of yesterday, he's still in Colombia. He's still trying to figure out what's going on. So that's a little bit concerning, because regardless of a player trying to stay fit, game rhythm is differently, and not having your most dominant center back for that first game against LAFC on the 24th of February, I believe, it might be tough. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but he's definitely fallen behind when it comes to getting preseason ready. And this is not crazy. This is something I do want to touch up real quickly. People ask me, how is that possible? How could he not be getting his process and his visa stuff ready? Look, it's in South America and possibly around the world, but from my own experience in South America, migratory paperwork and processes can be frustrating and slow. JP has been late to preseason because of it before. Raul Ruiz has. I believe Chicho Arango right now is also trying to get something done in Colombia that's taking a long time. So it's just part of the process. So to your point, Nick, I am still very confident. I still have the Sounders as a contender in the West to win the West. And I think I have no doubt, and I could, at this moment in time, I put some juice boxes on the fact that they'll be a top 3 team in the West.
So hold on one second then. Okay, so if you believe, if you're not quite ready to plant the flag and say Sounders take the West, is that because there's concern? Where's the concern lie?
Well, that's a great question to clarify. Well, it's because, to be quite honest, the Sounders' overall potential is kind of entwined with best case scenarios for a lot of these players, health-wise, performance-wise, form-wise. So as I've said before, I think that if you have a top form Raul Ruiz, your ceiling goes up a lot higher. If Pedro de la Vega can come in and have an immediate impact and adapt immediately, which nobody can really say that. There's no one in the world that can guarantee that Pedro's going to come in and be absolutely amazing. I think that if that winger position is changed, or the formation is changed, let's say, now with the addition of Dani Musovski, there's a possibility that maybe Brian Smetzer goes with a 2-man forward system. So if you change formations, then you got to give the team a learning curve time to kind of figure it all out. So because there are certain variables that I cannot for sure determine, that's where my apprehension comes in. Okay. I think the talent is there. I think the depth is there, but there's a lot of best case scenarios that goes with it. And in soccer, rarely do you get best case scenarios all around.
But here's the thing, man. I don't looking at the West. There may be better top line starters on other teams. I don't see anyone who has the depth that you guys have.
No, yeah, and that's the other variable.
Yeah.
That's the other variable because, I mean, last season I had a foot in my mouth when I talked about St. Louis, right? Because you saw the team, you didn't think they were going to be great, and systematically they were fantastic. They knew what they were doing. The guys fit in perfectly, and boom, they're dominating the West. Boom, they take the West.
Until the playoffs when they got exposed.
And then they got exposed, right? So, but that's where it all comes in. Is in the regular season. Things can change. It's a long, long season. I think Houston, yes, they haven't done any amazing signings, but you still think that with what they did last season, they deserve a little bit of respect. So those are the teams that I'm kind of looking at there. But I'm with you. There isn't really a clear favorite, and that's why I'm saying that I have no problem saying they're going to be a top 3 team. I have no problem saying that they're a contender to take the West. Yeah. But because of all those variables, I can't just guarantee it.
No, I understand. Here's the thing. Of course, I was wrong on Seattle last year as well. I thought they were going to get wrecked as of that, like the MLS All-Star break.
And there's still the LAFC component, man. Like I have no doubt in my mind that there's going to be way more signings than what we've seen out of LAFC. They've
only got 17 players, man.
Exactly. And again, it's LAFC, and they cook at their own pace, and all of a sudden they put out this 4-course meal by Chef Ramsay that you had no idea was being cooked in the back. So that's exactly why I'm like, man, you got to wait for that. They did pick up Omar Campos right back for Santos Laguna. He's a solid, experienced player. He's going to be a replacement for Chiqui Palacios. They just picked up a prospect from Colombia, Tomas Angel, son of Juan Pablo Angel, legend. Love that guy. Absolutely one of my childhood heroes as growing up, and he's a prospect. He's a very good player. So obviously not the deep piece signings you used to sign here from LAFC, because they haven't done those quite yet. They have the space to do that, but those are components that LAFC tends to do, little movements here and there, and then all of a sudden they give you their big bouquet, and you're like, okay, so this team is ready to go. So that's exactly what I mean, that there's still a lot of soccer and movements to be done, and that's why I don't want to go ahead and just cash in my lottery ticket quite yet.
No, we can't do a Lotto 649 on that one, right? Question from Dell. Dell watches and listens from Charleston. Will the Sounders miss Niko Lodeiro?
I think they will. I mean, I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. In a perfect world, Lodeiro would have stayed here. You see what he's done in Orlando in such a short time, in terms of just that locker room and that vibe and that security that he gives you in that preseason game against Flamengo, just how quickly he connected in that attacking side. It's still early. Yes, I understand it, but you could see what he can still do movement-wise, passing-wise, right? That goal by Angulo comes off a 1-2 touch between Lodeiro and Angulo. So, yeah, I think that a guy like Lodeiro will always be missed because of his leadership, because of everything. Now, there is that other side to that coin where maybe it was just time for him to go. The relationship was not as great as he should have been within that locker room. Head coach and himself didn't really see eye to eye with everything that was said and was brought out into light. Would that have been kind of a big elephant in the locker room every single time? Perhaps. But I think on the field, with what he had done, what he can still produce, yes, I think that they'll miss him. Yeah.
Nick, go for it.
Yeah. So tell me about what else is happening in your world, man. Talk about what's because look, we can sit here and we can talk about MLS preseason, but we all know it's preseason, right?
Yeah.
So it's just get out healthy, stay healthy, get people experience. That's like the most important things out of preseason, right? But what else is happening in your world that or what's maybe one thing that you can think of where? Because as we all know it happens. Sometimes the West Coast and the East Coast can seem like two completely alternate worlds. We don't see everything that happens there on the West Coast. What is one thing on the West Coast? Doesn't have to be just MLS, but what's one thing on the West Coast that people on the East Coast should be aware of right now?
It's a tough question because the West is a lot more quiet and has less storylines at this particular time than the East, because you know that along with the whole MLS world, the thing that's making everybody talk is Inter Miami and all of the what's going on with that team and how exposed they're getting and everything that goes with that squad, right? It seems like any time that they get into a friendly, MLS in general is being judged, is being talked about, and this is supposed to be the superstar team. But if I had to choose one specific subject in the West, I guess it would be the Sounders and maybe Portland. Portland with the new head coach and the movements that have been done there, where they're going to be this season. The Sounders particularly is the League's Cup situation, right? It's the groups were just brought out. They're not in a incredibly tough group with Necaxa and Minnesota. So how far can they go? Is that going to push this team to maybe try to get that summer signing early in that summer window? Perhaps. So I think the Sounders are the bigger topic simply because of what we just said. There's no real king in the throne right now, or at least as of the preseason. There's a lot of tournaments that they have to get put through. I think Brian Smetzer is in need for a good start to the season, because if there are two jobs in the West that are gonna get hot pretty quickly, is in LA Galaxy with Greg Vanney and Brian Smetzer, because this fan base is ready for a trophy. They're gonna demand this team to not be good, not be great, not be contenders. They're gonna really request and demand a trophy. And there's a lot of tournaments this season: Open Cup, Leagues Cup, MLS. So there will be a huge magnifying glass on top of Brian Smetzer to get these guys going, regardless of new talent, old talent, injuries, no injuries. He has a huge responsibility here, and I think that's something to look at in the West.
So then, all right. So then, let me ask about Messi and friends. We've seen they're on their 100,000-mile magical mystery tour, and they've got another match today that was supposed to be Messi and CR38, and apparently CR38 has angry muscles or whatever the phraseology was. So it's not. So it's not going to go down today. We've been talking about Messi and friends, and we're saying with the juice boxes, I mean, we're saying it right now. Every match, I don't care where, I don't care when, and twice on Tuesday, take the over with Messi and friends all year long, because they are a mess at the back. They let Kamal Miller goes. Christopher McVeigh is now headed to DC. You're looking at Yedlin Kritsov got injured in match number 1 last time out against Al Hilal. Legitimately, is this going to be, with Messi and friends, something where they're just going to outscore everybody and damn the torpedoes to hell if our defense sucks, and that's the way it's going to be with them this year? Or I mean, is this going to be one of Tata Martino's best coaching jobs because he has no defense to speak of, and trying to figure out how to sit there and plug all the holes and all the leaks back there?
So this is why this is the biggest topic in MLS. And like it or not, because a lot of us don't want to touch the subject. Believe me, in all my shows, I try as much as I can not to talk about it, because other teams deserve the spotlight as well. But you have to talk about it because they demand it. I mean, it's globally. In South America, if you're not talking about Messi and friends, and you're talking MLS, then you might as well just be talking about kittens and puppies, because nobody's going to be listening to you. So what you're saying is true. And it's not just the back line. It's any coach would tell you that the first defender is your forwards, the pressure, the containment, the counter press. And when you have Messi and Suarez, you can only ask so much of them. So that's for one. Same goes for Busquets, right? Regardless of how great he is and the brain and the IQ and everything he can do, he's still very limited physically, and you could see it, right? So this team struggles in transition. Malcolm gave this team problems. I'm talking about 99 problems. I mean, they could not handle this guy.
And the pitch ain't one. Yeah, I see where you're going.
That's right. Exactly. 100%, right? The pitch 1-1. It was transitional defense, Jelen getting too high. Gressel couldn't keep up. Busquets was trying to minimize getting exposed. So it was difficult throughout the game. And this is not a position-based team or not so far. They were having issues with the ball. I thought it was ironic that Ruiz had as good goal as he had because he was struggling throughout the game. Obviously, he's a young guy, just one of those guys that you're kind of hoping he develops. But when you were talking about Kremovsky being out for a while, you're talking about Farias being done for the season, you start looking at the depth of the team and saying, look, we got a bunch of tournaments. And you got to MLS play. So is this team really going to be able to do what everybody's expecting them to do? Because I keep hearing, is this the dream team? Is this the dream team? Somebody asked me if this was like when LeBron, Bosch, and Dwayne Wade got together. And it blows my mind because you can't compare a basketball team where 3 out of the 5 in that court are those guys. In a soccer field, there's just too many components. It's different. Not to mention the fact that these guys are far from their prime. So I feel like those misleading headlines and information does kind of affect MLS in general because all the globe sees is, wow, Inter Miami just lost 4-3. I don't care if it's preseason. They just started. It's all hello, whatever. Where is this team going? So there's a lot of exposure in general for the league, for this team. But going back to your question, I think they're going to struggle. I think, yes, you're right. Take the over in every single game. But obviously, having Tata Martino, you would think that at some point he's either going to make personnel changes, concept changes, or the soccer module in general maybe progresses and grows into a better defensive team. But right now, it doesn't look great. But it's preseason, right? So we don't want to put too much into it. But this goes to last season too. So there is a lot of data that will indicate that this team is not going to be great defensively.
Or Tata Martino may just take his entire bottle of Malbec and go sit in a corner office somewhere and just say, y'all sort it out. I'm done. I'm going to watch. All right. What's going on with Pulso Sports, Soccer Bar, and everything else going on with you that we need to know about?
That's right. Soccer Bar will get going here in 58 minutes. Going to be a good one. We're going to be able to break down a couple of the things that we kind of just discussed. We will talk about Messi and friends today. We're going to talk about Copa America. We're going to talk about Dallas, Jesus Ferreira. He's going to, we have some audio from Jesus. So it's going to be a good one. Check it out, all in Spanish, Pulso Sports, everything about the Sounders. We're going to have a breakdown of some of these preseason games. We're going to have a breakdown of the roster. And obviously, this being it, the Sounders are not doing anything else except perhaps adding Freddie Montero if negotiations go their way. So we're going to break down this roster, where they're at, specific players to watch. So check that out in Pulso Sports this weekend.
As always, my friend, great to have you on your Thursdays, and have a hell of a show coming up in 57 minutes. And we will catch up with you again next week as we rattle through preseason, because we're only a couple weeks away from getting everything squared away in Major League Soccer for 24. Niko, my friend, as always, great to catch up with you.
Thank you, Nick, John, SDH family. We'll see you next Thursday.
You got it, brother. All right, so there goes Niko. Let's see. One story with you, Nick, that I wanted to get into before we get into what to watch. And remember, noon to 7 on Peacock, they are simulcasting the Sky Sports Deadline Day stuff when Big Ben chimes. And then you know that the window is over. And so if you got Peacock or if any way to watch it, VPN, there's a way to watch Deadline Day coverage on Sky. and it's been very, very quiet. About 10% of the revenue that was spent the last window has been spent so far in this window. I mean, literally, you're talking like 60 million versus 642 million when it comes to outbounds and transfers. You're seeing a lot of loans this time. Story came up, and once again, 4-letter paper. So take the information at your own peril, as we say. Then 4-letter paper came out with this story yesterday. Insert individual here is keen on making what would be a sensational, if somewhat unlikely, return to Manchester United. Who do you think that individual is, Nick?
Man, I got no idea.
This is touchline. This is not player.
Touchline?
This would be touchline, yes. If everything goes sideways with Ten Hag, this particular individual is keen on making what would be a sensational, if somewhat unlikely, return to Manchester United, according to the 4-letter paper.
Is he a Scotsman?
No.
Is it the baby-faced assassin?
I don't know if he's still got a baby face, considering he's got a lot of salt and pepper in the hair. Jose Mourinho.
No. I don't care what Jose's keen
Jose
to do.
Mourinho. Sources close to the
I don't care.
Sacked by Roma earlier this month.
No. You might look. I was keen on dating Jessica Alba when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Means nothing. I was keen on being an astronaut when I was 10. I was keen on, captaining a nuclear submarine. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It only matters to me. That's it. It doesn't matter to anyone else. It doesn't matter to any paper. Jose is washed. And he's washed because what he was a pioneer in, everyone's doing now. The periodization, the antics. The antics in his mind, allowed the media crush to focus on him and not his players, right? That's fine and great when everything else is working. Nothing else is working. And it's just one ping only, Vasily. But one
ping only, please.
But Jose's washed. Is done. Go sit on a beach. Go sit in a chair with a microphone.
Take over for Roberto Mancini in Saudi Arabia.
But not even that. He doesn't even. Roberto Mancini is far better as a manager than Jose Mourinho is right now. Is and was are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Is and was are two different things. You are only as funky as your last cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. It's done. It's over. Go home. You lose. You get nothing. And it's the same thing with Ten Hag, right? They say, "Oh, it's Ten Hag this, Ten Hag that." Look, no. It's you have guys who are being hired because they believe they can institute a culture, right? They believe they can because somebody, either the media, the fans, the board of directors, they're going to have a culture here. Eric Ten Hag's going to bring Ajax culture with him. No, he's not. He's not. He could bring the style of play. He can't bring the culture, the buy-in. Why? Because those kids at Ajax were trained since they were like 4 to play that way. That's not how it's done at Manchester United. You can't pick up and transfer that culture. You can't. And Jose Mourinho excelled at a place like Real Madrid, where you had stars who could overcome the deficiencies of tactics. right? Or could institute the tactics at such a level that the gaps sort of were erased. You know, Ramos was an eraser. You know, if players managed to get through a lot of issues, you had players like Ramos, who was an eraser, and Pepe, who was a red card waiting to happen, who just didn't get called that often, right? Nobody else has anything. What?
Mm-hmm.
Jose Mourinho, go home.
Go home.
People need to start being realistic about their expectations. They do.
Go home.
I'm so over this mess. It infuriates me. Yes, we're still talking four card because Jose Mourinho can talk about, and I don't know whether he said this or not, or the four letter is simply just putting it out there because it's a slow news day.
Say he feels he has unfinished business and has made it his mission to take charge again should the opportunity arise at some point in his future.
Great. I have unfinished business at Turner Sports. I'm not going back in there. I have unfinished business at Turner Sports. I'm not going back in. It's over. That part of my life has sailed, right? One of the hardest things to do
is to return to unit.
He's become sort of it's sort of become like problematic's one thing, but there's a lyric in the song Power by the infamous West. It says, yes. Do you have the power to let power go? Do you have the power to let power go? Can you let go of who you were? And there's a lot of people out there who can't because they're afraid of what they will be without what their personality has become.
Check.
I'm no longer Jose Mourinho, civilian, strong, creative personality, an enjoyable character. I am top flight manager Jose Mourinho. Mm-hmm. I don't know who I am without that top flight manager position.
I don't know who Jose is.
Yeah, and at some point in your life, when you're chasing ridiculous heights, you are going to have to stare in the mirror one day and realize you are no longer commanding officer, captain of industry, leader of men. You're just you. And when you're just you, you have to answer for all the buffoonery you've done in your life. So I understand Jose is not ready to let go of that aspect yet. That's why I have all the respect in the world for Zinedine Zidane, because he walked away from it.
Mm-hmm.
He walked away from all of that and said, I'm just going to be Zinedine. I'm not Zidane. I'm just Zinedine. Mm-hmm. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm going to make my money, but I'm cool being who I am. And you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be okay with just you. And some people can't do that. Stop with this mess. Stop conflating is and was. Stop.
Those are two separate tenses, sir. Anyone who follows grammar knows that, and the individuals that should be living in the present tense and not the past tense should be catching up on that. Required reading for today. Martin Ziegler over at the Times has a piece on how Everton and Nottingham Forest ran afoul of FFP. It's a really good read. It's a deep read, so maybe on your lunch hour, take a deep dive and look at what Martin Ziegler has pieced together today over at the Times. What to watch and where to watch it tonight. FS2, actually, FS2's got a busy day. CONCACAF Women's U17s Championships at 1 and 4. Then men's Olympic qualifying from CONMEBOL at 6 with Venezuela and Brazil. Vamos, Venezuela! 3:15, USA Network, Wolves and Manchester United. ESPN Deportes at 3, Getafe Real Madrid. Fox Deportes, doubleheader in the Honduran Liga Nacional. Marathon is at 7. Olympia is at 9. Our friends from the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza are part of the doubleheader there. Universo simulcasting Wolves and Manchester United. 1 o'clock is the match involving Messi and friends. Find it if you're interested. ESPN Plus has Getafe Real Madrid. They also have the Belgian Pro League. Fox Soccer Plus has Colombia Bolivia at 6. Golazo Network has Argentine Primera, Union Santa Fe and Estudiantes at 7:30. 2 other games on Paramount Plus. Boca Juniors Sarmiento at 5. Central Cordoba Godoy Cruz at 7:30. Peacock has West Ham and Bournemouth at 2:30. Looks like everybody is trying to chase after Dominic Solanke by the end of the day, and Bournemouth is trying to hang on to him unless the price really is right for Bill Foley. VIX at 10 o'clock, Querétaro and Cruz Azul. Is there anything? Have you? Dell wants to know if you've ordered your Reina Nottingham Forest jersey yet.
I would rather spend money on a 3-piece dark meat spicy combo from Popeyes.
Oh,
which I love.
Maybe a breakfast biscuit, by the way.
I would rather do that with my money.
That's pretty strong. Last thoughts on your mind before we go?
Just so many things. I'm not going to dive into all of it, but I will say, just take a breath and just keep in mind that at some point it's just you in the mirror. This isn't some kind of thing. Don't put yourself into existential crisis because your favorite club is not doing what you want to do. It's just not. It's just not worth it. There's so many wonderful things in life to do. So anyway, until next time, everybody, it's the show that actually tells you that taking a break from watching sports on the Vision and touching that grass is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to do that. Put a little bit of distance and space between those things that drive the passions. It's all right. Take the break. Till next time, everybody, mucha, mucha, Euro, y'all.
What he said. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.